Hello there, I'm Callum and welcome to Fun Facts. And this time I thought I would talk about a couple of articles. Now, one is a retrospective, I'll call it, and one is one that's been recently released regarding information about The Force Unleashed 3. They're shorter articles, so I thought I'd bundle them together and talk about them. And the first one is The Brilliance of Star Wars, or Dawn of the Jedi, by Jennifer Heddle, which is actually still on the StarWars.com website. Now, I'll of course put links to these in the description. This is February 24th, 2014. Now, why I came up with this is because I'm currently reading Dawn of the Jedi Force Storm. My review, hopefully, of that will be out next week. I've been a bit slacking on reading some of the novels and comics, but hey, I'll be doing that. But the interesting thing is I'll just read this out and give my thoughts on it, because it's a really interesting article in the way of what they thought going forwards and how things would be going. So, this was, of course, I'll just read it. It'll be fine. Next month, sadly, we'll see the final issue of Dark Horse Comics' Dawn of the Jedi. John Ostrander and Jan Dosima have done an amazing job of conceiving a Star Wars universe set more than 25,000 years before the events of A New Hope. As dawn turns to dusk, I thought I'd take a moment to talk about what I particularly loved about this groundbreaking series. And so far, all of this is true, because I'm loving the Dawn of the Jedi Force Storm, and then I'll be moving on to the next ones. Brilliant comics, definitely read them. The art. It would be impossible for me to discuss Dawn of the Jedi without immediately mentioning the incredible art courtesy of Jan Dosima, accompanied by Dan Parsons inks and colours by Wes Dzioba. Is the D silent? Maybe it's Dzioba or Zioba. However you pronounce that. From close-up facial expressions to expansive battle scenes, Jan illustrates this world so vividly that the characters practically leap off the page. Her attention to detail is amazing. I would always thrill at getting new penciled pages from her. The depiction of the Force. I love the way the Jedi perceive and use the Force. They believe that the most important thing is balance, to keep the light side and the dark side in perfect equilibrium. It's not about never having emotions or dark thoughts. It recognises that people are susceptible to the dark and merely seeks to keep it in balance with the good. This seems eminently reasonable to me, and it's jarring in a fun way to hear the Jedi talk about merely keeping balance with the dark side, not ignoring it completely. One of the cool tidbits is that the Force Saber, the forerunner of the lightsaber, is seen as an instrument of the dark side and is approached with wariness by the Jedi. And the Force Sabers are really interesting because they're actually fueled by the dark side of the Force, and they were created by the Rakata, so that's really cool. Really scary villains. The Rakata are seriously disturbing foes. Not only are they merciless, unfeeling creatures set on galactic domination, they eat people. That's a surefire way to creep me out about a villain, the possibility that they might eat me. And I can just tell that Rakatan Praetor Scalanas would do it with a smile on his face. Yes, very much really cool with these comics is you get to see the Rakatan while the Infinite Empire is still around. And so that's a really cool part of this as well. Oh, diverse characters! Funny how we have them before the new canon. Anyway. It's just a lot of the media outlets, especially after the decanonization and around the marketing for the new canon material, have said about diversity and saying that, oh, it's the first time we're doing this in Star Wars, it's the first time we're doing this in Star Wars. And it's like, no, it's been done before. Anyway, Dawn of the Jedi has a diverse cast of characters, humans of different races, Sith, Twi'leks, and Zabraks, and much more from what I've read so far even, bringing richness and variety to the storytelling, and each character has a distinct personality. How can you not love seeing a Jedi Wookiee pop up now and again? And I think that's something that everyone's loved, at least in the EU, is how we get Low Barker and Tywaka as Wookiee Jedi, and they've been awesome to see. Epic battles with high stakes. I love smaller stories, but every once in a while you need a tale where the fate of the entire galaxy is at stake. Dawn of the Jedi delivers on that in spades and makes you grateful that the Jedi have the Force on their side. Now, with Dawn of the Jedi, I think I would say that it needed to start off with that, because you want to have the important story first for that era, and then you can start going into the smaller stories. And so, that's where you have a high stakes battle. It's like the original trilogy was high stakes because it's the fate of the known galaxy, with the Empire being defeated and all that, so all of that good stuff. And the character Zesh. Zesh is a Force Hound, and Force Hounds are an addition in Dawn of the Jedi as well. It's really cool. A slave bred by the Rakata to hunt down worlds that are rich in the Force. He is wholly a creature of the dark side. His conflict when he is exposed to the ways of and the kindness of the Jedi is compelling, especially since not even Zesh knows which side he is on all the time. A complicated character with a sympathetic story arc. That's cool. I've pretty much just been introduced to him, so I don't know his full story, but so far it's been really interesting and I want to see what comes of it. Rancor Dragons. Yes, yes, yes. So on the cover of issue 1 of the Dawn of the Jedi Force Storm, a Rancor Dragon. Some Jedi can ride giant Rancors that fly. It's a Rancor with wings. It's as awesome as it sounds, to use what they say here. Rancor Dragons. I love how they have the ideas as well in Dawn of the Jedi, but I'll talk about that more in my review of the comics. The breadth of imagination that went into creating the series is truly impressive, and the Star Wars universe is richer for its exploration into the very beginnings of the Jedi and the Force. John Ostrander and Jan DeSima have set a high bar for everything that follows in the Star Wars comic book realm. This last sentence did not age well, I don't think. And, I mean, apparently there's good comics in the new canon, but this was February 2014. It was pretty much the end of the EU's lifetime. And so, when they set such a high bar, I think when they decanonized the EU and went with, we're going to create a new timeline, you want to have the new timeline's quality of content at that high bar. Whereas, I haven't read them myself to give a proper thoughts on it, it's just things I've heard. They have not been at that high bar, they've been at the middle to low. So, that is a thing that's like, it's disappointing to see the way that it's gone. I think, anyway. But as I say, this is a retrospective, and that's why I can make those comments about it. But I think really, this shows how great the EU was and is. Because they set a high bar, and there's a lot of comics that have set a really high bar that Dark Horse have done. And so I think that they're definitely worth getting into for that high bar of quality and all of that stuff. But anyway, let me know what you think of this one in the comments right now, and then I will talk to you about the next one. So this next one is about The Force Unleashed 3. It's on a Star Wars gaming website, but they've got a huge ad up the top that I don't want to include in the thing. So, Star Wars The Force Unleashed actor opens up about shelved third entry. This was actually on June 22nd, 2020 and written by Lisa Clark, which is interesting how this is a recent thing that came up, because people are still talking about The Force Unleashed, so it must be quite popular to still be talked about, I would think. Anyway, Sam Witwer had some things to say about the cancelled plans for The Force Unleashed 3 during a Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back watch with IGN. Witwer shared some thoughts about The Force Unleashed 2 and 3. As many of you will recall, the ending of 2 left us with a mighty cliffhanger. And I think I would add into that, that it's such a cliffhanger because it was rushed in its own way. But regardless of that, if we had The Force Unleashed 3, we wouldn't be as up in arms about the ending of this particular story, at least. There were some other things that were cancelled, which we were really looking forward to, but one of the things we all wanted was the ending to the Force Unleashed storyline, with The Force Unleashed 3, to be able to explain what happens after the ending of The Force Unleashed 2. I will be playing Force Unleashed at one point on my channel as well, so you can keep an eye out for that when I play it. Starkiller handed Darth Vader over to the Rebels, and 3 have meant to pick up where 2 left off. So there's the canon ending, is the light side ending, and spoilers, unfortunately. But it's been out long enough that if you haven't played it, or if you haven't seen the ending, then it's kind of your own fault. Only that never happened. In its own way. But Whitworth says, I'm not comfortable sharing everything we discussed, but the idea was that the biggest mistake ever. The idea was that was the biggest mistake ever, and that Vader, like he was toying with Luke. The Force Unleashed 1 and 2 games were all about Vader toying with Starkiller, and at some point there will be a confrontation where Starkiller's fighting Vader, and everything that worked before suddenly isn't working now. He's like, I cut off your hand! And Vader says, that wasn't my hand. I have no hand. That's really cool, I think. That's really cool. It reminds me a bit of like, there is no spoon sort of thing. But that'd be really interesting, and I really want to know how that would actually play out. Because of course, we want to see the Starkiller in The Force Unleashed 2 fighting Vader in a more realistic way, because I think they did rush it, and he was fighting Vader near the end and somehow defeated him, but with the context here now, we know that he was toying with Starkiller, that he wasn't fighting at his full strength, at least in The Force Unleashed 2. Now, The Force Unleashed 1 is more debatable, but The Force Unleashed 2, Vader wasn't being serious with Starkiller, and so this would be very interesting to see how it actually turned out. And we agree that the story was very well done and brings the essence of Vader to life. Whitmer went on saying Starkiller's fighting, and Starkiller says, how are you doing this? Vader answers simply with whatever the first line in the original Star Wars script was, which he believes is, I am Lord Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith. It was something along those lines, and that ends the conversation. He's no match for this guy. There's a little spoiler for an alternate universe. That's actually pretty cool how they could go the alternate universe thing. And I have links to videos here that shows the light side ending and stuff. Oh look, kissing. But I would say that the first line of the original Star Wars script, I don't know the original. I don't think I've ever actually read that. I should. But there was a comic based off that as well. But the first line of the Star Wars movie that came out, the original Star Wars, is actually said by C-3PO. So it'd be funny to hear Vader saying a 3PO quote. That'd be hilarious. It's unlikely that we're ever going to see Force Unleashed 3 now, but man, wouldn't it have been great? Yes, I think many people on social media and everywhere would have liked to see the Force Unleashed 3. And with the same team working on it and the same actors, really feel like it would have done great. I think it would have done great, given that it wasn't rushed like the Force Unleashed 2. Because basically they just moved up the deadline too much on Force Unleashed 2, and it could have been a lot more than what came out. It's sort of a story with Star Wars games a bit though, because KOTOR 2 had a lot missing from it because it was rushed as well, so there's that. I have a lot of fans here from my community who would root for this, I know. While 2 was not as great as the original Force Unleashed, it still had an interesting story and fun gameplay. For sure, it could have just been fleshed out more, given more time. That's the main thing. And given more time, it could have been a lot better game, Force Unleashed 2, compared to the Force Unleashed 1. But we have what we have now. So I think this is really interesting to have a view into what the Force Unleashed 3 would have been like from Sam Witwer, and what it could have been. What do you think Force Unleashed 3 would have been like? I think one of the main things I would want is some resolution to Starkiller's storyline properly. Like, was he a clone or was he not? and how does that work out? And I also want to see more of Ram Kota and some of the original characters from the first Force Unleashed coming back and seeing how that all plays out in connection to the Rebellion and all that. It'd be really cool. Well, let me know what you think about these articles. I think they're an interesting read, at least, to have a look back on and do all that. And yeah, check them out for yourselves in the description below. And if you enjoyed my little quick thoughts on these articles, then you can subscribe for more EU content. I don't do articles all the time, but I do consistent EU content, and then I'm doing some other gaming streams and whatnot along the way. And you can do all that good stuff, pretty much. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm interested in your thoughts. I love to have conversations about Star Wars. And I'm also thinking about starting soon a EU 101 sort of series that will first cover summaries of each of the eras for a basic rundown of how the EU plays out. And then going into some questions you guys have now. I posted a tweet on Twitter about it. If I had a community tab, I would have chucked it on there. Maybe that's for a later time. And so that'll be really cool. It'll be like here's answers to your questions and also some basics about the EU. So keep in tune for that. I don't know exactly when that's going to come out, but it wouldn't be like next year. It'll be within the next half a year I'll start doing that. And I'm keen to interact more with you guys and answer your questions as well and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey Ray. Oops. Hey Ray.